Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. And today, it's time to ramble on. Let's talk about what I'm gonna be doing, what I did, what's been going on. First starts with Cusco. I've decided to go to Peru. Cusco is pretty near Machu Picchu. I'm undecided if I want to go to Machu Picchu, just because it's such a tourist trap, but it seems like they have pretty good guides and infrastructure, and the money is used for good local development. And however much of a tourist trap, whatever, it is still mountains. I mean, the mountains are real and original mountain. So I'm still making up my mind. And there is one nice ticket, and you can pay to go to all of the tourist sites with just one ticket. I'll let you know how it goes. But I was telling my friend about how I decided to go to Peru next. And originally I was going to go to Bogota, because that is at 8,600 feet roughly of elevation, and Medellin is at 5,600 feet. So I'd be going another 3,000 feet up, and that's well above the elevation where you can start getting altitude sickness really easily. And my friend was like, oh, well, why don't you just stop by there before you go to Peru, since it's only 3,000 feet away? And I was like, no, it's hours away. It's just 3,000 feet higher in elevation. Okay, but if it's only 3,000 feet higher, then how can it take 10 hours to get there? That's less than a mile. That's not very far. And I was like, well, it's not on the same mountain. It's not in the same place. And she was like, but it's only 3,000 feet away in elevation. I was like, no, it's in a completely different location. The city, like, far away is 3,000 feet higher in elevation. So I'm at 5,600. Bogota is at 8,600. I think you're mixing up elevation and location. Elevation is just the height of a place, and the location is where the city is. And her brain, like, twirled and whirled for a minute, and then she realized what she was doing and started laughing out loud, and it was really funny. She just mixed up elevation and location. My brain does that sometimes. I'm so focused on what I'm thinking about that I don't zoom out and realize I'm not even talking about the right thing. So even though everything I've heard about Bogota from everybody tells me just go to Medellin. Medellin's better. And Medellin is springtime, eternal. The food is amazing. There's rain, great weather, nice people, not too many people. And I was like, man, I can just stay in Medellin. But I really want to go to a higher elevation, and 8,600 is pretty high. That's 2,000 feet higher than Denver. No, that's 3,000 feet higher than Denver, because Denver's lower than Medellin. Medellin's like 5,600. And yeah, Denver is 5,280, so it's significantly higher than the famous tall city in the US. It's at a higher elevation than most cities in the world. So I still wanted to go because I thought it would be interesting to live at a higher elevation. And I started reading about Bogota, but it really does sound urban. It just sounds like a big urban area with 7 times as many people. There are 2 million people in Medellin and 15 million plus in Bogota. And I don't really want to get all crowded, so I was looking at where I would go next, and I figured I'd put the Bogota on the back burner. If I really wanted to go, I could stop by on my way out of the country. And then I was looking around, and for some reason I saw Cusco, and I was like, that's cool, because I didn't want to fly into Lima, just because it seems like a city. It's probably a cool city, but I kind of wanted a small town, more local experience, and Cusco just kind of called to me as a smaller mountain town. And then I looked up Cusco, and Cusco's at 11,600 feet. So it's almost twice as high as where I am now. It's more than twice as high as Denver. That was actually pretty shocking to realize. I don't think I've ever been up that high. I mean, I've climbed so many mountains in Sichuan in China. I couldn't tell you if one of the mountains was higher than 11,000 feet, but I feel like I would have known that because I would have been freezing at that height. I believe. I don't know. I'm going to have to go there and find out. But luckily, I've been jogging every day at that grass top 2-kilometer running track, and my endurance is definitely growing. I'm definitely getting my breath. I can jog for, I don't know, indefinitely without breathing hard. My running technique is still intact, which is nice since I haven't run in half a year or something. And now I just hop back on that grass track and I feel very comfortable jogging again, which is great because, yeah, I should work on getting as much oxygen as I can because I'm about to double my elevation, which is going to do far more than double my chances of getting altitude sickness. Every single Airbnb in Cusco has a warning that for the first day, don't do anything, just rest because you're probably going to have altitude sickness. And I will ignore that. I'm going to rucksack from the airport to my Airbnb. And maybe I'll collapse on the side of the road or pretend I'm taking a nap and really I'm just trying to catch my breath for 4 hours. Shoot, you know what's going to be crazy though? Even if I train all the time here, I have a long layover. Not too long, like 7 hours, but I'm at 5,600 feet now, or 1,500 meters now, and then I'm going to fly through Lima to Cusco, and I have to wait in Lima for 7 hours, so I'm basically going to be acclimatizing to a 0 elevation. It's right on the beach. So I'm going from 5,600 feet to like maybe 500 feet, and then I'm going to fly again, and after a couple hours, I'm going to be at 11,800 feet, or 10,800 feet? 11,100 feet. Woohoo! That's going to be crazy. Especially after stopping by the seaside for 7 hours, I assume. I am there for a month, which actually is an ordeal in and of itself. But I do have a month, so I should be able to recuperate and see everything, because again, Cusco isn't too big. But there is a town called Pisac that I want to go to and look around, because they have ruins like the Machu Picchu ruins, but they're basically unregulated and anybody can just walk around that area. And that appeals to me more than buying the tourist thing and buying the Machu Picchu ticket and taking the train over there and all this kind of stuff. But I'll see how I feel when I get there. I almost bought a house in Pisac instead, but settled on Airbnb for various crazy reasons. I guess we can just talk about that now. So I have had a couple weird experiences on Airbnb. Nothing unexpected from sometimes you live with a crazy person. So the one landlord in Las Vegas stole my birthday present and then threatened to call the cops on me when I asked for it back. So that was odd. And then there was another guy who was extremely inappropriate, also in Las Vegas, I think, to the girl that I was traveling with at the time, and asked if she could introduce him to her sister. It was really gross and weird. But both times, Airbnb support was very supportive. They immediately answered the phone is a big one, actually. Whenever I call up Airbnb support, I don't think I've ever waited more than 2 minutes. They answer very quickly. They ask for the entire story from your point of view, and then they keep everything recorded, and then they deal with it. They flagged those people's accounts that I'm talking about. So they basically have a strike, and if another one comes up, then... Oh, and they also warn the host, so that if another thing comes up, then it's like, we warned you, now you're penalized, or we warned you, now your listing is taken off Airbnb. So Airbnb does serve the guests and hosts pretty well. There's pretty good communication anyway between Airbnb support staff and the customers, the renters and rentees on it, in my experience so far. And I had another support necessity that came up, and support helped me with it. So this was the first time this situation exactly has happened to me. And what's been really weird is the Airbnb app stopped working for like 6 weeks. But after I reported it to Airbnb just 2 weeks ago, they apparently somehow were not aware of the threads detailing the search button being broken, even though many people were complaining about it. And it's been 2 weeks. there were 3 updates, and on the 3rd update over those 2 weeks, the search button started working and Airbnb is functioning completely normally again. So apparently they just weren't aware of the problem until, I gave them a call. So that's very satisfying. Again, the support staff seems to be really on it with Airbnb, even though they're all not from the US. Everyone's from India, or usually India. I think I've only talked to Indian people, but they're great. They're great support people, even if they aren't from the country where it was founded. Who cares? All tech support is. Actually, when I was in Bhubaneswar, that's like the tech capital. That's where all the IT support buildings are. So I probably lived near the Airbnb IT support building also while I was living in India. Anyway, what happened was I was looking at all these places, and lately I just want a private house, washing machine, full kitchen, and then a nice place, maybe hardwood floor or tile, someplace very clean. But yeah, I like a large private house with a kitchen and a washer, or washing machine for my clothes. But when I saw how small Cusco was, I decided to rent the apartment earlier than I usually do, which can literally be the day of. If it's any big city, you don't need to worry about booking too far ahead. There's always stuff available in any decent-sized city. But Cusco is very tiny. There's maybe 500,000 people in Cusco altogether, if you include all of it, like outside of the urban areas also. So a little bigger than I thought, but not large enough to have a huge selection of houses that fit my criteria with the washing machine and the kitchen and big open areas and green stuff, and private houses in particular. But I was very happy because I found one, and I booked it, and I got a response immediately, and then the host didn't say anything. And I was like, oh, that's not too weird. We're pretty far out. Usually they're just like, hey, thanks for renting my space. See you in a couple weeks. And this time we were more than 3 weeks out, and I was like, well, whatever, I'll talk to him when I get closer. So then I was about 2 weeks out, and he still hadn't said any welcome message or anything, so I decided to reach out and say, hey, is this close to a bus line? I just said something normal to start the conversation, just asked some regular question. And I got the weirdest response. First, he didn't answer me, so it's already been a week and that's an instant book. I paid in full, so he had the entire rent money already. And it's a non-refundable reservation. So I asked if the Airbnb map was correct so I could get there. And he said, good afternoon, the correct location is behind the archaeological park, close to the archaeological sites above. Climbing steps so access is only on foot, the car leaves you nearby. And I said, great, thank you. 5 hours later. 5 hours later, Wilson writes back, hello, good evening. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'm having a problem with a guest's stay. I don't know if I could cancel the request. Thank you very much. My apologies. And I was like, what? Are you talking about me? Did you mean to send that to Airbnb? And I asked him, did you mean to message me or Airbnb? Because it sounds like you want to ask someone about my stay that you'd like to cancel. And all he types back is, please cancel it. Apologies for the case. And I said, well, I can't. I already paid. It's non-refundable and you have all of the money. Is there something wrong with the house? Because that's the other thing about Airbnb. If you're going to host, you can't not host someone, especially after you already accept the reservation and the money has been transferred. So they can't cancel for no reason without penalties. And the penalties can go from 25 to 100% of the money. And that money goes back to the renter. And Airbnb takes cuts from future earnings for that host also. Also, it gets you a black... It's like a huge thing, so it's very rare for hosts to cancel after they've made this reservation. And it just sounds weird to me, the way he's not talking a lot and the kinds of answers he's giving me. And I suspect it's because I got a good deal on the house. It was $350 or something for the month. And it's a full house, to myself, washing machine in the kitchen, and just had everything I was looking for. And it was a pretty big place. That's not crazy. The other prices were around that. But that was probably the best priced one. Actually, it was $320, I think. Yeah. because I think he just wanted more money, because he didn't answer if there was anything wrong with the house, and he said something very vague, I have a problem with a guest, and he just asks me to cancel. And then he tried to change the price to double the price to $660, but you can't do that because it's already agreed to, and the money has been transferred. So the host can't change how much the house costs after you've already agreed on a price and paid for it. Also, if you're wondering why that's so cheap, I rented 28 days. If you rent more than 27 days on Airbnb, you get the monthly discount. It's huge. It can be 75%. It's just always a very large discount. I think this one was something like 75% or 50% something. Anyway, he tried to double the amount, and then that doesn't work because he can't change the rate after it's been paid for. And so it rebounded back to the original rate and basically sent messages to me and him. So I could see him trying to change the rate and then see Airbnb saying, no, this is the rate that's already been paid for. And I was like, what the is going on? And he wasn't giving me any good answers, so I decided I would talk to Airbnb support. But it was already really late, so I figured I'd talk to them the next morning. And I woke up to a message from Airbnb support saying that my reservation was canceled. But because that guy didn't answer me, now I'm less than 2 weeks out from getting to Cusco, Peru, and there are not many houses of the kind that I was looking for in that same price range around. Even more expensive. There's not many full houses with washing machines and kitchens. And what my host that canceled wrote after I got that notification from Airbnb saying they canceled the reservation is, I have to cancel because I have to travel for an emergency. A family member has died. Second, my lease is expired and I can't rent anymore. And I was like, okay, why did you accept it then? But I didn't ask him. I was just like, why the heck would you accept something if that was true, which I don't think it is. I think those are consequences that won't get him a black mark on his record as a host, even though he will still pay financial penalties. So that's what he told Airbnb so that he could cancel it, that someone in his family died and also his own lease for the place expired, so he can't rent it out. So that was already weird. It's very rare for a host to do that. I think I've only encountered it one other time, and when the host realized what steep penalties he would be facing, he just let me stay in whatever place I had rented because he also just wanted more money and had sent his monthly discount low enough that he wanted more money. Okay, so that's already pretty strange, but I had encountered it before and I have heard of it occasionally, so I was like, okay. And Airbnb was kind enough. If something like this happens, again, Airbnb support takes care of you pretty well. They automatically, I didn't even have to talk to anybody, sent me a $25 gift card to cover the cost of being closer to the day. And they recommended a house that looked a lot like the one I had just rented, and it was only about $25 more. And I would be able to get basically what I wanted again. It wasn't the exact same, but nothing else. Houses are different. So I booked that one because it was the one recommended by Airbnb. It had a ton of great reviews for years. It's been around for a very long time, nearly a decade. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that's okay. And then I booked it. And one thing everyone talked about was the responsiveness of the host. And so I just asked the same question, like, hey, is this address correct? And they didn't answer me. And then 5 hours later, they didn't answer me. And then they declined the reservation, maybe like 12 hours later. Hosts can decline reservations, but it is going to like raise flags if they do it too much. And especially if there's no reason, and especially if their house was listed as available on those dates, they should give a valid reason why they're declining a reservation. But this apparently good host didn't even answer me and declined the reservation. So now I've had a very strange cancellation, and then I'm recommended something by Airbnb. I pay for it. It uses up some of my credit, and that's not refundable if you use the credit. So they used up the $25 or some of the $25 credit that I got with this reservation, and then it was canceled also, and the money was refunded, the payment for the actual house. So odd. Everything is odd already. And I just called up Airbnb because I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to ask, like, is something wrong with the city right now? Why is nobody renting things out? But there were people renting out because you can see which days are currently being rented. I might have just gotten super unlucky twice. And the Airbnb support staff listened to what happened, said, yes, that is all very rare and very strange. And yeah, it's the first time it happened to me. It's the first time she heard about it, this Airbnb lady. And I thought this was extremely inconvenient, considering now I'm closer to my date out to fly. I don't see any houses that look like what I was looking for, what I booked twice, still within that same price range. And if they can give me $25 more, I will just leave it at that. I'll go find something. There are plenty of places. They just won't be exactly what I wanted. And instead, she stayed on the line. She gave me a bunch of places to look at. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I got to talk to this female Airbnb support worker, I called up Airbnb to be like, hey, what the heck's going on? And a guy answered, and he went through my security questions, all of them, instead of like the 3 or whatever that they're supposed to ask you. He asked me all 7 or 8, whatever there are. And after I had answered all of them, he asked all of them again. And he asked some of these questions 5 times. And I was like, I actually said, I'm sorry, how many questions do you need? Because this is taking a very long time and I've already given you the answers. And he said, just one more. And I was like, okay. And I gave him whatever the last one was. He said, okay, tell me your situation. So I told him, and he said, I'm going to look into it. Can you hold for 1 minute? And I was on hold for 1 minute, and then the call disconnected. And this happened right after the, second declination, or really after cancellation and then a declined reservation, and then I get hung up on by the Airbnb support worker, which has never happened. Like I said, they're usually very on it, the Airbnb support. And I was like, this is crazy. So I called back, and it was the same guy, and he asked me the same questions again to verify my identity for Airbnb. And then he was like, I'm so sorry that happened. Can you just wait for 1 minute? I'm going to fix this right now. Okay, just wait. I was like, okay. And then I got disconnected. After a minute, the music, whatever, played, and then I got disconnected. And I have great signal. I had just called somebody up internationally, so I knew it wasn't from my end. And then he called me back, and he says, I'm sorry, we keep getting disconnected. I don't know what's wrong. Are you sure you have good signal? And I was like, yeah, I have full bars, and I just called someone else, and there was no problem. And he said, okay. And then he got disconnected again. If he was accidentally pushing the disconnect button instead of hold or connect button, that would not surprise me at all. He seemed very confused. Maybe he was a new guy. Okay, so anyway, after that, I was like, okay, if he answers, I'm just going to hang up and try and reach someone else, because there's no wait time. It's very short wait time. So I called up Airbnb again, and I just happened to get the female support worker, who was on it. She asked the proper amount of social security questions, understood my answers the first time, asked for my side of the story. I told her what happened. She confirmed it, and they can see all of the messages that host and guests send each other. And she also acknowledged that this is a very weird situation where, one, you got a cancellation from a host who, for all intents and purposes, was recently renting out his place, and nothing seems wrong with the place. So it's really weird that he would have it available and then cancel. And then also very weird that the place Airbnb recommended I rent declined that reservation. And she contacted both hosts, and they gave her some story, and she said, okay. And she told them the penalties they would face. Well, the cancellation guy, much more than the declined reservation, because with the canceled reservation, everything already went through. With declined, sometimes you haven't paid the money up front, and it's just not as big of a hassle for all parties involved, really. So she acknowledged it was weird that had happened to me twice, and then I got disconnected from Airbnb twice or 3 times, whatever. And I said, look, just give me $25 more. I will find something. It's fine. And she said, no, I'm going to look into this. And she did. And she said, I've talked to my managers. look for a place in your budget that you like. It can be around your budget, and then let me know and I'll see what I can do with the money. And I found one for, I don't know, $380 something, so $60 more than before. She applied a credit, and I paid the same amount that I had for the first canceled reservation for this $60 more expensive house. That looked pretty nice. Still not as nice as the one I was originally going for, but very nice. It looks like a nice house. I think I'm going to be happy there. But let's knock on some wood and try not to jinx myself, huh? So it could have been a lot worse. It was a very strange situation, and one that I have never encountered specifically like that before. I think I've encountered someone who needed to cancel a reservation at some point before. I can't remember when it was, but it was years ago. So a canceled reservation has maybe happened to me once every 5 years, because I've been on Airbnb for over a decade. And both times the Airbnb support staff has immediately applied a credit so that you can pay a little higher rate for your next booking, and listen to the problem and apparently try to address the problem. And like I said, with the app that they fixed, they do address problems pretty quickly. Considering they're such a large company and they have so many individuals contacting them, the fact that they fixed the app so quickly shocked me. And the fact that they fixed my housing problem so rapidly also shocked me, because it was a tiny town and it was not easy to find these houses. And when at first she gave me a list of houses that were just not good. They didn't have a washing machine and a kitchen. They weren't private, even though I had explained all those things. Actually, I think I had to find the second. Yeah, this house I ended up eventually getting. I don't think it was on the list. I just looked at all the available ones and said, well, hey, this one's $380, but it has all the stuff I was looking for that first canceled house has. And that's the one I was able to get for the same price. So Airbnb is not morally beneficent. They're not always going to do the right thing. But when I have had problems, Airbnb support has helped me every time. That getting disconnected from Airbnb, that was also the first time that has ever happened to me. And I do call them up. I don't need help with this kind of thing, but I have called them up before. So it's a big for-profit company. They're not paragons of virtue, but they do run the business well from my experience. And I've just had this great experience, really. I felt very taken care of and acknowledged. And then my problem was actually solved. Like, when was the last time something went wrong, you called up the support line, and they actually worked to solve the problem? I can't even think of I don't even know when the last time that has happened to me. Like, the last time I called up a support line and got a practical and effective solution to the actual problem I was telling them, just directly, that's pretty rare these days. And I have encountered that every time I call up Airbnb support. So, Airbnb, you can get houses for $300 and they fix your problems if you are not the one at fault. All right, that's Cusco, baby. So I'm going to go to this crazy high elevation city, get some altitude sickness, and see what's up over there. I hope they have good food. I feel like I'm going to miss all the food. It just feels like it's going to be more Guatemala-y, which, you know what, they had great food in Guatemala. It's just the food here in Medellin is so good. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just spoiled. Speaking of food, I went around Medellin and just looked for all the different types of chorizos they had, because I've been getting chorizos from this one guy, but he's getting lazy, I think because I go there I'll go there 3 days in a row because he's there Thursday to Sunday. And now he doesn't cook the sausages a long time, so they're not slow cooked. They're just charred on the outside, and that's not tasty. I want the slow cooked, lots of flavor, not burnt. And he's just burning them and then scraping off the burned stuff and giving them to me. So I went around the city and just looked for all the different chorizos, and I got a great one, burrito with tomato salsa / something. I don't know. It wasn't exactly just tomato salsa. It was like, maybe it was. I don't know. But there was onions and Or maybe, it wasn't pico de gallo, though. There was a salsa element. Anyway, and then in that was a chorizo. And that was good, but I don't like traditionally made tortillas very much. Honestly, because they don't have xanthan gum, so they crumble very easily. I'm not a huge fan of handmade traditional tortillas. But the chorizo was great, so I was happy. And then I found another lady who had chorizos on skewers with a little tortilla on top and then a potato on the bottom of the skewer. So you hold it, and then from the bottom up, it's a potato, chorizo, and then a little piece of a tiny tortilla. The tiny one's okay because the flavor of the chorizos are so strong that that little bite of flour sort of mixes in well with that and takes away what may be too oily or too overwhelming a sensation of flavor. But probably isn't. I usually just throw away the tortilla. So that chorizo was great, and there was a potato there to nibble on, which was like salted and rolled in spices, which was pretty great. Maybe some oregano. But it was just like a tiny baked potato on the bottom of this chorizo skewer, and it was great. And then I got a third one, and that was just by some lady who said it was $2,500, and I forgot the word for 500. So I just stared at her for 4 seconds. And I was like, $2,500, I got it, okay. Sorry, my brain has to translate very poorly and slowly. And she was like, haha, no problem. And I got my chorizo, and hers was really good too. So I'm probably going to go back to that third lady. Second or third lady are good. The first one was just a regular chorizo, it wasn't that good. And then, like I said, the guy I go to usually is getting lazy. But 2 and 3, that's just an old lady. I see her constantly chorizoing. I don't think she's ever going to change her method. And so they're going to be exactly what they are. And I told her I like mine cooked for a longer time, and she gave me one that was cooked a longer time, and it was great. Those were my chorizo ventures, and then I wanted to find other new foods around the city that I hadn't been to yet because I don't have a lot of time left in Medellin, and I found this pizza place, and I wasn't going to go there, but it smelled good, and it was 2 people. It was like a middle-aged mom and pop pizza shop, and I just trusted them, as I do trust most mom and pop shops. And I went in to look at a menu, and then I realized that I didn't have any money on me. I just didn't have the cash on me because I had gone running and didn't have my money on me. So I didn't apologize, actually. I was going to say I did, but I didn't. I just said thank you and walked out. And the restaurant was empty, so I felt bad. But I walked back to my house, got some money, went back to the pizza place, said hello again, let me look at the menu again. And I got one, and then I was like, no, just give me the special. Give me the one with everything on it. So I got this big especial pizza. And this place was called Mega Pizza. And I was like, oh, interesting, because their pizza pie boxes were not squares or circles, they were triangles. And when he made it and brought it out, it was a giant slice of pizza with like 6 triangles cut into it. So you lifted triangles out of this giant... Just imagine if you had a large pizza, but in the shape of a triangle, in the shape of a giant slice instead of in the shape of a giant circle. So it should have been called Mega Slice, not Mega Pizza. I know that bothers me a little bit, but I get it. Mega Pizza. That's fine. And it's especially fine because it was a good pizza. The only thing I would want is a little more sauce and maybe blackening on the bottom of the crust, but the crust itself was good dough. It was good crust. It tasted like real pizza crust. The tomato sauce that was on there did taste good. All of the ingredients were very fresh, and Colombia has remarkable cheese. I don't know if it's just they make the mozzarella here different or if they're actually calling a different kind of cheese mozzarella, because all the mozzarella type cheese they put on tortillas, or in this case on the pizza, it doesn't taste exactly how I associate with mozzarella. It's a little more crumbly, but it still holds together very well, and it does melt well like mozzarella does. So maybe Colombian mozzarella is made differently somehow, or maybe it's just the elevation. I really don't know. But it's better, actually. It's a lot better. It tastes much more fresh than the mozzarella I usually get on pizzas in restaurants. And then there was bacon and sausage, and the bacon was cooked perfectly. Everything was cooked perfectly. All of the vegetables and meat were cooked perfectly on this well-made dough, cooked into the shape of a giant slice of pizza, which was really cool. It is remarkable to look at it. And the cuts were really interesting too, because he must always cut it in that way. And I thought maybe he has a circle one and he cuts it and then rearranges it to look like a slice, but the crust of the mega slice goes all the way around the slice. So he must, for some reason, and he must be very good at it, because that was the other thing, the speed. He made this pizza in like 10 minutes, so he must already make all of these big slices and then just do them up and throw them in the oven as soon as somebody orders, because I can imagine the shaping takes a while. But it was good pizza, it was fun to eat, it looked fun, and it was fun to hold because they were slices. They cut a bunch of triangles into this giant triangle, or from this giant triangle, and that was a great mega pizza. So yeah, I recommend mega pizza if you come to Medellin. Oh, I finally saw a car crash here, which the traffic here is great. People do not honk at each other. They don't drive very fast. They're pretty careful. The ones who drive fast, the bikes, like the motor scooters, they drive kind of fast. And the teenagers will, of course, drive faster than responsible adults a lot of the time. But that's what it was here. There was a bunch of like 20-year-olds, or maybe they were teenagers, I don't know. And they crashed into another car. And nobody was hurt, but the front of the car was cranged. It was accordioned pretty bad. So it was good that nobody was hurt. It was pretty wild, though. It was right next to my house, like right next to my neighborhood. I didn't hear or see the crash when it happened, but it must have just happened. Everybody was still there. The police had just shown up and started asking questions. And the police that's the block. That place they crashed was maybe 500 meters from the police station tops. So as soon as it happened, they were right on over there. Oh, the Airbnb thing was also funny because I'm helping a couple people move abroad right now, and they're both getting pretty close to actually moving, it seems like. And one of them was really excited about Medellin, because that's what I have to talk about too. I think Medellin is going to be added to my list of countries to move to, or at least cities to start traveling in. Thailand was always basically the top choice because of it's super cheap, the food's good, super friendly people, good healthcare. It basically just has everything, and it's very affordable and fun to live there, and it's beautiful. But it's super hot in Thailand a lot of the year. Like 8 months, it's unbearably hot for me. I just stay inside with my AC until nighttime comes, and then it's bearable and I can go hang out at the night markets and go talk to people and stuff. But it's hot. Medellin, on the other hand, is absurdly climate controlled. Nobody here has AC because for 365 days out of the year, the low is about 64, and the high is about 83. So all year, you have 72 degree Fahrenheit weather, 22 Celsius. All 12 months of the year, that's the average temperature. And at night, it gets a little bit cooler, and during the day, it can get a little bit warmer. But it still never goes over low 80s, and it's often cloudy, so you still a little cooler during the day, maybe at 80 instead of 83 Fahrenheit. And then it always loses those 10 degrees or 5 degrees Celsius in the night time. It just goes away and it's comfortable, so nobody uses AC here. There are, of course, houses that you can find, and it's a little warm for I run hot, so even 72 is a little uncomfortably warm for me. I'm not going to have that problem soon in Cusco. It's going to be freezing, maybe literally, I don't even know. Well, it's going to be 8 Celsius, that's not bad. 42 Fahrenheit during the nights, that's understandable. And then it'll be warmer in the day. Should be good for me. I've been looking forward to some colder temperatures these days. I liked Panama, but it was warm. And Medellin is at least comfortable. I can walk around without constantly sweating, which is nice. But I'm looking forward to being in cold temperature, and I might actually change my travel plans that are tentative right now anyway to go to some cold places like Iceland or Greenland after this. when I was walking down to the running track the other day, the grass top running park, to practice my oxygen inhalation for the double elevation soon. I was passing by this guy selling what looked like onion rings, but I realized were churros, and great churros here on the street. I don't really like them. They're very corn mealy in Guatemala and the other places I've tried, but they were great here. They were just like thin, little, crunchy, doughy churros, and they had arequipe, dulce de leche, or like caramel sauce that they put on it, and it was delicious, and it was so much sugar, and I was like, I can't get those again, but that was very tasty. And that same day, I was so happy after my first bite of churro, I was just floating down the sidewalk, and this old man stopped me and asked me if I could throw the ball over the fence, and I was like, what? And he was holding a soccer ball, and I realized the kids inside the soccer field had somehow kicked it up those 30 feet or whatever it is over the fence, and it landed in the street, and this old man picked it up, but his shoulder hurt, so he couldn't throw it back over. And I failed twice because there are electrical lines running outside the chain link fence around the soccer park, and I didn't want to hit those, so I was overcompensating and smacking into the chain link fence. But then I walked around the corner, and I threw it up there, and it went over, and everybody said thank you, and it was very cool and very satisfying. I was glad I got to help. And then I was like, yeah, you're welcome, haha, and I walked away. And then the old man called after me because when I threw it up, when I took the ball from him, I gave him my churros to hold so I could throw the soccer ball over, and I had forgotten to take them back. But luckily, he remembered and gave me my churros back, and I enjoyed the rest of my walk munching on my caramel churros. I tried a new fruit because there's so many drinks here that are flavored in lulo, and I was like, I don't know what that is, and so I've just been ignoring it. But then I was like, wait, this is why you travel, learn what lulo is. And it's an interesting fruit. It's super sour. It's in the tomato family. It looks tomato-y, but it's a little, for some reason, it feels more like a fruit than a tomato does. Maybe it's just not as savory, but it is very sour. That's why they make it into a lot of drinks. And I got a couple, but mine never got sweet at all. It says they're supposed to get a little sweeter, but they're usually still pretty sour. And so I just had these weird, tough, sour tomato fruit things called lulo. I did get lulo flavored ice cream. That was great. But the lulo fruit itself its hide, its skin is so thick that I sharpened my knife and then tried to cut the top off the lulo, and I literally couldn't cut through it with the knife unless I stabbed into it. Just like slicing across the top of it. The skin was so tough, the knife didn't go through. I was pretty shocked about that. But it's worth trying if you're down here, especially one of the drinks. That's the nice thing. They make all fresh drinks here. So there's just, great fresh drinks. I got one with a pork skewer. That's another interesting thing they do here. The pork skewer guys all tenderize the meat in the middle of cooking the skewer. So they'll cook it or grill it for a little while, then move it over to the counter and smack it with a meat tenderizer a few times, put it back on and grill it, smack it with a meat tenderizer a few times after a couple more minutes, and then finish it off on the grill. And when I ate it, it was super tender and delicious. It didn't take too long to make, maybe 10 minutes, probably under 10 minutes, and it was delicious. I finished Pebble in the Sky, which is Isaac Asimov's first book. I recently watched iRobot and I Am Legend, so I was in the mood for some classic sci-fi weirdo tales again. And I hadn't read Asimov in a while, so I decided to read his first book ever, and it was good, and I could see why it was the first book he ever wrote. That was a little apparent, but it was still well written and a fun read. What was actually more fun was I got an audiobook to narrate recently, and it was interesting timing because I started reading The Mosquito Coast for fun, which actually sort of stars a MAGA guy. It's from decades ago. It's from like 100 years ago almost, this book, The Mosquito Coast. 83 years ago, I guess, 80-something years ago. And it's about the scientist and inventor Ali Fox, who's a general handyman, but the crux of the story is he makes his family travel with him down into Central or South America, I think South America, to found his own community because he thinks he can do everything better than everybody else. And his family can't say no. They follow him. He has a forceful personality. He's extremely narcissistic, full of hubris, and takes them down here, and chaos ensues. The movie starring Harrison Ford is great. I recommend it. It got me interested in reading the book. I started reading the book for fun, and then right after that, I got an audiobook to narrate for Audible, and it's a very well-written book, but what I like is that it's actually very similar to this book. It's called Nightmare Reef, and a narcissistic husband makes his whole family go on this voyage across the Pacific with him as the captain. He's very domineering. His wife she doesn't have a lot of pride in herself or independence or identity, really. But she read to me a lot like Shelley Duvall from The Shining. And so when I narrated the book, she was instantly Shelley Duvall from The Shining to me. So that was really interesting because it was a long book. It was a good, 9 hours or something. And I think 8 hours, who knows? I do, but who cares? So I get to act as Shelley Duvall, and the writing is very good in Nightmare Reef. And then Ali Fox, the scientist from Mosquito Coast, I did his mannerisms. I don't try and imitate either of those actors, and I don't try to do like perfect impressions. I just get a feeling from a character I'm familiar with, and then I make that into my normal speaking voice, and I just differentiate by imbuing that with a little bit of Shelley Duvall or a little bit of Harrison Ford as Ali Fox, the inventor in this book. And then so I got to act as two characters that are very interesting to me in movies and media, and I think it turned out really good, and it was really fun to do that performance for 8 hours or whatever it was. There's one guy in this neighborhood that shouts intermittently, like once or twice a day, you'll just hear, "Ah!" And I always thought it was so weird. And then a motorbike drove by and it sounded like a guy screaming, and I'm not 100% sure, but it might actually just be, they have a lot of crappy bikes around here, or at least all bikes that are not electric are like crappy to me now. They're very inefficient and loud, and it's just, can you hear that? Yeah, that's one of them. Whenever I hear a gas bike these days, I just feel like it's like if I saw a horse and buggy pulling people down the street and the horse was crapping all over the street. I'd just be like, I guess, okay, you like that, but it's really inconvenient for everybody else and dirty and loud. Horses or these motor scooters. But that's what they have down here. There are some electric scooter shops and electric scooters down here for sure, and electric cars, but gas is still the big one here. Although if you're from the US, I guess that's pretty normal to you too. There's a lot of gas cars there. That is rapidly changing around Asia with Chinese EV factories. They're, taken over. And considering recent US track record for, civil rights and civil progress, it'll be kind of a relief when the US can't pretend to hold any sort of strategic advantage anymore. Because what they do with their power is very damaging to the planet and its people. Not least of all, its own citizens and its own country. I tried beef ribs. I feel like I've got pork ribs a ton of times, but beef ribs are not very common. I don't see them a lot, but there's a bunch here in Colombia. They're as common as pork ribs, and they're the same price or cheaper here. So I got those, and they were great. I air fried them for 45 minutes or something. Oh, you know what? I steamed them in my rice cooker first for 45 minutes, and then I air fried them for 10 minutes or something. And they came out perfect, and I have the barbecue sauce with a beer flavor inside, and that was delicious also. And so I got beef ribs again sometime. Got some chicken wings just yesterday, made a bunch of great spiced chicken wings, crispy, just how I like. Air fryers Air fryers, man, they're the best. I've been thinking I should just buy an air fryer whenever I live anywhere, because I do live there for, a month at least each place. So at the most, I'm only paying $1 for my favorite kitchen appliance if they don't have an air fryer yet. And then I'll leave it there and everybody will enjoy it when I move on. But because I was so interested in ribs because they were so good, I went to the supermarket I haven't been to before called Exito. Exito? I don't know. Exito. Yeah, it must be that. Exito. And it looked like one of the big supermarkets, but when I walked in, I realized it was like the local version, which usually I like. But man, when I walked near the meat was bad. It was stank. And when I asked him to hold up a piece of beef ribs, he did, and it was off color. Like, it was very dark bruising across the meat, or maybe they just didn't inject that part with red, but it looked bad and it smelled bad, and I left immediately, and I found this other local butcher with great meat, and he gave me a bunch of beef ribs, and I had great beef ribs that day too. I learned how to say cornet cone, cucurucho, cono de cucurucho. That's a waffle cone here. They don't say waffle cone, which is really weird because the ice cream place I like to go to is called waffle. It's called waffle. But they don't call it cono de waffle, a waffle cone. They call it a cornet cone, a cono de cucurucho. And when she told me that, she was like, do you want the cono regular or cucurucho? Something like that. Or maybe it was, I don't know what the other one is. But I was like, Kuka, what? And I had to have the ice cream lady repeat it like 5 times before I said it. And instead of saying, sí, cucurucho, sí, es correcto, she was just like, she didn't say anything. She just watched me say it, so I wasn't sure if I was saying it correctly. And I had to say cucurucho like 5 times before she was like, okay, you are saying it correctly. And I was like, okay, great. And I always feel bad because my Spanish sucks, but my accent is pretty good, so they always think I can speak more than I can. And they even mentioned, your accent's really good. And then they said something else, and I was like, but my vocabulary sucks, but I don't know anything. Don't worry, you'll learn. That's the same lady that taught me arequipe. I learned my ice cream flavors and condiments in that place, except I can't remember sprinkles right now. It's something fun, like chuchos or something fun. So the next time I went in, I said, hola. Or actually, I went in like 5 times after that, and I said like, quiero maracuya con, quiero maracuya en un cono de cucurucho. And so now I could order regularly what I wanted, and they scooped it out for me. And after a few times of that, I was like, hola, es mi señor cucurucho, the cornet guy, because I always got the cornet cone, the waffle cone. And I thought that was really funny, Señor Cucurucho. Nobody else seemed to think it was very funny. So I said it again because I'm an idiot. I was like, they probably just didn't understand. I was like, it's me, Señor Cucurucho, porque me gusta la cono de cucurucho. And one of the girl who taught me the words was like, uh-huh. Like so clearly, like, that's great, what do you want? But they were nice. Everyone's nice. Then they're very patient with my dumbassery. Oh, and I got the good meat from the good butcher. I got to talk to him in Spanish too. And he was good at talking to someone who isn't good in Spanish. So he asked me questions he knew I'd be able to answer at my level. And it felt like we had a real conversation for like 5 or 10 minutes because he held the bag of ribs next to him after he was finished cutting them up. And instead of holding them out to me, he just started holding them to himself and asking me questions, like holding my ribs hostage unless I talked to him. And it was a good conversation. It was fun to talk to him. But as soon as he held out the bag, I was like, thank you, I have to go make these. And I left. Yeah, the cheese in Colombia, I'm just going to bring it up real quick again. If anybody knows what kind of cheese they make in Colombia that's mozzarella-like, or if they just have a different type of Colombian mozzarella cheese, definitely let me know. I'm very curious about this cheese. All of the cheese here has labels, but I don't know which of those cheeses, because they have dozens of varieties, which is the one I keep tasting. It's got to be one of the more common ones and the cheap ones, because all the street food people use that, but I'm not sure which one it is exactly. Oh, a vegan asked me about my eating tendencies and opinions. I don't think it's morally okay to kill animals. I do think it's perfectly natural to kill animals and eat them. So, not morally okay, but very normal and natural to do that. So I eat animals often. If I'm in India, I went vegan for literally a month and I didn't even notice. I went vegetarian because I started eating paneer. I went vegetarian for 1 month, didn't notice. So I was vegetarian for 2 months and vegan for 1 month in India without even noticing because the food is so good. If I had that option here, I would probably be eating less meat. My body seems to run better on plants. But I have a great time frying up things in the air fryer. It's a really easy way to cook food, and it's very efficient for the human body to, metabolize fat and protein. It's just all there in a tiny little chicken wing or rib or whatever you want. So if anybody else is wondering, nope, I'm not vegan, but I liked being a vegan while I was in India. Eating meat seems as normal to me as walking. On this planet, anyway. All the things eat meat here. I consider humans animals. I don't see the difference between them and other animals. So, if other animals eat meat, it seems perfectly natural for humans to eat meat also. And plenty of animals eat plants, so it's perfectly natural for humans to eat plants. Whatever you want to do, do it. I'm an omnivore, 1 meal a day guy, I guess. For now. Right now, that's what makes me feel healthy. Oh boy, and speaking of good food, I recently had a fantastic patacone con carne with guac. It's a fried plantain circle, and he fries that, and while he's frying it, he's cooking pulled pork, like barbecue-flavored pulled pork, just a little bit of sauce on it, and then he puts that on top of the fried, plantain tostada, and then you can get whatever you want on the top. He has a bunch of condiments. I always just get guac. And holy cow, it's just this big tostada on the plantain, pulled pork, guacamole. Delicious. I got a bunch of those, but he's not there every day. And he ran out the last time I was there. But I should go back because it's so good. It's such a great tostada. I miss the tostadas from that girl in Guatemala. In that town? Shoot, I can't remember what tiny town that was. But her carrot tostadas were great. And this guy's pulled pork tostada is fantastic. I guess I should just call it patacone because it's not that crispy. It's the perfect amount of crispy. This pulled pork tostada, whatever it is so good. Patacone, yeah, it's a patacone. Patacone con carne with guac. Desmechada, I think that's like pulled pork. Carne desmechada, something like that. Oh, I got a pretty big topic about Medellin on the topic of it becoming my new recommendation, at least in tandem with Thailand. Thailand still has so many great advantages being in Asia, and it's so cheap over there, and it's so safe. So that's nice, but the climate here and the city itself is very safe. It's really difficult to choose one as better than the other. I'm not going to do it. I think they're just both great options. If you're uncomfortable moving to Asia, you can move to South America in a great country. If you're uncomfortable with South America, you can move to Asia to start in a great, safe country with all the civil amenities at an affordable price. It's really funny, too, because once you're in this mode, like you heard me talking about my $300 house, and I was like, oh, it's so expensive. That's because I know that's not expensive for US Americans and a lot of the rest of the world, but if you travel, those are the prices you get used to. And even before you travel, so those people I'm helping right now travel, one of them was talking to me, and she's paying close to $2,000 a month just for rent, no utilities or anything, in the States, and wants to have financial freedom, like I apparently do, as I share with her and tell her these prices. And she's finally looked on Airbnb and believes me about the prices because they're right there on Airbnb, and they show you exactly they're available. You can book them. They're real prices. It's just cheap to travel. But she was looking at houses in Medellin, and she said, $450 for 2 months. Yeah, that's not bad. It's so, as soon as we accept that something is real, it's so weird. I do this too, but as soon as I accept something as real, it becomes routine and my mind tries to find the faults in it. And so I think it's really important for me and everybody to consistently remain aware of what the fundamentals of what something is. So like 400, oh, maybe there's a better house. There probably is, but that is a $400 house. In the same amount of time, you would be paying $3,500 or $3,200 in a couple months. You're just paying $450, $438, something like that. So when she said, yeah, $400 for 2 months, that's not bad. I just had to remind her, yeah, that is about 15% of what you're paying right now in the States. So 85% off your monthly rent for the price of a plane ticket, including all utilities and Wi-Fi. Great, yeah. Not just pretty good, but that's a amazing deal that you can just get from 1 week to the next if you fly to a different location. If she does, anyway. On a goofier topic, I watched Adam Sandler stand-up because I didn't even realize he did stand-up still. But some people were talking about him on a podcast and mentioned his stand-up, so I watched one. It was funny. I bet if I was there in person, I'd be laughing as loud as everybody else. It's very similar to what I remember seeing him do stand-up back in the day with his guitar on stage. It's basically the same thing. His buddy plays the piano on stage as well. He might have even done that back then in the 90s or whenever he started doing that. I watched Happy Gilmore too. It was fine. I've been watching a lot of movies. I'll go through those real quick and then we'll wrap it up. So rapid fire. Companion, 2025, good. Take This Waltz, the best movie I think I've seen Seth Rogen or Michelle Williams in. Michelle Williams, definitely. She's fantastic here for 94 minutes. And then the extra 20 minutes or whatever at the end of that movie is, in my opinion, completely unnecessary and abstract and should not be there. It would end perfectly at 94 minutes. That was such a disappointment when they did that. But it's still great acting, a great movie, great a bunch of stuff. Take This Waltz, 2011. The Guilt Trip, 2012. Seth Rogen and Barbara Streisand go on a road trip. It was fine. I watched it. I enjoyed parts of it. I wanted Seth Rogen to be funnier and more loose, but it was clear he was tied into this relationship with Barbara Streisand, a living legend, and it was just a very conservative, older type of road trip comedy than I would want to see Seth Rogen in. I want to see him go wild and have a little more fun. All right, more, faster. Kumiko the Treasure Hunter, 2014. She believes in the movie Fargo, that the money is real, and goes looking for it. Great movie, highly recommend it. I kind of had explosive laughter moments here and there, but it's just a captivating performance and captivating cinematography. It's just a good, fun movie to watch. That is a good movie. Kumiko the Treasure Hunter, 2014. Mars Express, 2023. Very interesting take on robots and the near future or maybe 100 years ahead. But just, yeah, developing android people, and it's a police crime mystery with some sci-fi androids in there, and it's great. It's a very good movie. It's a French animation, and there's a few countries that respect animation as much as any other art form, because why wouldn't you? But many countries still don't understand animation. France does. France has a wonderful animation culture, and this movie is a clear reflection of that. Mars Express 2023. Very interesting detective story. Love Hurts. No, I haven't finished that. Oh, okay, real quick. I just dropped my phone again and swore very loudly. This Motorola phone it's better. It's so much better than my Pixel 6 ever was, and I've dropped it twice now on hard tile, and it still hasn't cracked. So that's amazing. I really like the plastic case, actually. I bet if it was metal, my screen would have cracked. I can't believe I've dropped it twice already, though. That's crazy. Of course, it costs $150, so maybe I'm not as careful with it as I should be. But anyway, this phone frickin' rocks. Okay, I have so many movies, though. What else did I watch? The Stranger, 2021. One of my favorite actresses ever, Micah Monroe. She is an Uber driver. Guy gets in, not a great guy. She's a great actress. And the story's really interesting, partly because it's told in 8-minute increments. It was a mini-series of 12 episodes for 8 minutes each. Worth watching. It was kind of like retconned episode to episode, I think, or something. Like the plot was changing. I don't think it was as effective as if they just give her another 90-minute movie, because she's a great actress and it was an interesting plot. But the time in between the episodes also gave my brain a couple minutes to put together the plot more. So I was outside of it looking at it as a diagram rather than just enjoying the story, which I would rather do in an unbroken 90 minutes instead of 12 7 or 8 minute episodes. Men, 2022. Holy cow. Great. Really weird. Ends with a scene you probably haven't seen before. You should watch it. Men, 2022. Also, the woman is drop dead gorgeous, and the village countryside is drop dead gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie with some very wild ideas, and it's thrilling. It's a very fun movie, or it's a very exciting movie, and is just a joy to watch in general. I finally finished Jean-Claude Van Johnson, which is a very funny idea, but it was pretty incoherent plot-wise for me. I kept being like, wait, what the heck are they doing? Why are they doing that? And I guess it's a comedy, so it doesn't matter, and everything is a satire, but I found it pretty confusing to follow, and it seems like they just threw away entire plot lines whenever they got boring. And it's only 6 episodes of maybe 30-minute episodes, but it seems like anytime something wasn't working, they just threw it away, and the next show was like, forget about that crap, let's talk about this crap. Still pretty funny, and every time the coconut water joke came up, I laughed. Magpie, 2019? No, Magpie 2024. I hadn't seen this movie, and it's Daisy Ridley, the new Star Wars girl. And I hadn't seen her in a serious drama yet, and she absolutely murders this serious drama. That's a very satisfying, complete movie. The whole time I was like, but then when the movie was over, I was like, oh, okay, that was a very good ride. The Faculty, 1998, Josh Hartnett, the teachers are aliens. Great. Or fun, like a goofy, fun time, high school aliens. I've never seen it. Or if I did, it was so long ago I can't remember. I feel like it has some kind of cult classic cachet, something like that. So I just watched it for fun, and it was fun. Oh, A Classic Horror Story, 2021. Weird horror in Italy, but they're mostly speaking English, I think. Yeah, I think they're mostly speaking English. It was fun. It's a fun horror movie, very folk horror. Good stuff, really. I mean, if you like horror movies, that one's a good one to see. A Classic Horror Story from 2021. Reptile 2023, because this other actress who is amazing, Matilda Lutz, I'd heard her name recently. I hadn't realized how much she's been working and how good she is. So I've been watching a bunch of her movies. She was in A Classic Horror Story, and this movie Reptile opposite Justin Timberlake, and she's actually not in a huge part of this movie, and it's really interesting. She takes a lot of smaller roles. I don't know if she's choosing to take those, or she's so early in her career that she'll take any job, but she does well no matter how small her role is, and it's always a critical role, even if it isn't a huge role. So, yeah, Justin Timberlake was very good in this movie. This movie was stacked. It had Benicio del Toro, and just a ton of actors you're going to recognize. This was my favorite Benicio del Toro appearance in a very long time. I got so irritated with his mumbling that I basically stopped watching his movies. But if this is what he's doing now, which was great, Reptile 2023, I should probably pick up a couple more of his movies or watch some new ones, because this movie was extremely exciting. It's another murder mystery thing, but it's pretty It's very surprising at a lot of points, and all the actors are good, and the story's complex but not stupid. It was exciting straight up to the end. And when it was over, I was just sort of bowled over and surprised at how good it was. Have I mentioned Revenge yet? Because that movie is freaking insane. That's a Matilda Lutz thing again. Revenge 2018 is a revenge story. And Matilda Lutz stars, and she's amazing in it. And the movie itself is very frenetic. It's a bit over the top, but in a good way, in a Tarantino-y fun way. I watched it because it's the lady that made The Substance, which if you haven't moved, you should see that if you haven't seen that. This was her first movie, Revenge from 2018, and knocked me on my butt, because The Substance knocked me on my butt for sure. This is a different style, and it's a little simpler because it is a revenge story at its core, but I really liked it, and if you like revenge movies, this is one to see, Revenge 2018. Those are a bunch of great movies. You can go watch them or not. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Kai, and I'll talk to you soon. If you want to talk to me, you can hit me up at bitofarambler@gmail.com or bitofarambler on Lemmy and Blue Sky, and I'll talk to you soon.